Okay, so with 6, we have a planned thing, hopefully to be a recurring segment, and this is our hot takes. And this is just an mildly unpopular opinion, or maybe an underrated opinion. And so I'm going to go first for this. We'll probably alternate or see whatever happens. And so my opinion for this, and I'm a recent convert to this. Like, this is a really hot take for me because this is really is new information. But I've discovered that I really feel like the Central Time Zone really is like the best time zone for living in the United States. I got a couple of reasons why. First off, first I'll start off with the only disadvantage to the Central Time Zone, because I want this. It's very fair. I want to keep this in mind. But then everything after this is just fantastic. Is that if you want to do stuff early with Eastern Time Zone people, then you got to get up really early. That's the only flaw, though.
Right.
That was going to become a problem. Like during school, that was a bit of a problem doing online classes. And it's like, oh, we're starting at 11. And it's like, okay, I got to get up at 10, which isn't that big a deal, but it was just annoying. But all the positives is, first off, it gets really good on the flip side when people are hanging out really late, which is what most fun things tend to be when you really want to be able to go the distance. Then you have that extra hour on them. So like, oh my God, it's like 2 a.m. I'm exhausted. It's only 1 a.m. for you. So you're not entirely exhausted. So you can, maybe get a better night's sleep. I mean, I won't, but maybe you can. Another thing is, again, with since almost everything is based on the Eastern Time Zone, if a late night programmer site, it's like, hey, this starts at midnight because we're going to be cool and edgy about it. It's like, starts at midnight, be there if you care enough. And it's like, it's only 11 o'clock for me. This is a normal experience. I've lived on the East Coast my whole life, and actually when I thought about that, that seems like a really weird thing to say. I've lived on the East Coast my whole life, but I really have. And it's just funny, for just these few past approaching 3 months, it's been very fun to be in the Central Time Zone. Once you get used to it, and it's like, oh, he said 10, 12, oh, he means 11, and it just becomes easy.
Yeah, I like the take. I have never lived in the Central Time Zone. Once again, I'm a completely East Coast person, never lived anywhere else. But I the one thing that comes to mind with the Central Time Zone is that it's pretty large. Like you can I'm pretty sure you can go to almost South Dakota still in the Central Time Zone, or I know Minnesota is. So it's pretty overarching, far stretching, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think a little bit underrated, how many people follow the Central Time Zone. On top of that, another thing that comes to mind is that whenever you're watching, I think I mentioned this to you, whenever you're watching late night television, so something starts at 8, it
Mm-hmm.
starts at 7, and then it's over at 11, not 12 or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm specifically thinking of Sunday Night Football when I have to go to bed early for school the next day, and then it's 12 a.m. and I haven't done anything yet, and I still have homework to do.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking of stuff like that. That's a lot more helpful. And yeah, I like the take. The only thing that would bother me is that exact thing, but about you have to tell people, oh, you just gotta know in your mind that everyone's saying, oh, it's 1 hour before or 1 hour after, whatever it is. But in terms of the actual living situation, I think it's better. But it is interesting because you never see anything listed, especially even national media. Nothing is listed outside of the Eastern Time Zone. It's always kind of the default. And I'm wondering where that comes from, because I feel like there's a lot of people who live in other parts of the country.
Yeah, I feel like I imagine West Coast broadcasts might say West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's certainly possible. Just the stations out there do yeah, it's all right. This is streaming at 5 o'clock West Coast, so 8 o'clock East Coast. West Coast baseball games, which is
Right.
That's my big experience with that. Whenever the Mets play out west, then it's just oh, this game is starting super late.
This game starts at 10, right?
Yeah. And then my parent, my stepdad, Scott will still be up, and I can hear him yelling at the TV. It's it's midnight, it's 11 o'clock. What's going on? But yeah, I imagine it's East Coast. It's obviously a lot of people live there, but I think West Coast I think it's the two coasts probably get top billing for time zones, and then Central Time and Mountain Time just kind of learn to figure it out. I do remember when I was a kid that some it was kids programs, they would say like 7-6 Central.
Yeah.
And
Oh
so
yeah, yeah.
that's actually what I say in my head. So it's like if someone tells me, all right, we're gonna meet at 8 p.m. It's like, all right, it's 8-7 Central, and so that's how I'll just remember the time.
Yeah, they used to come on like cartoons. I remember when I was a kid, and I like didn't really know what it meant because I just didn't know what. Like I was just confused that there were other time zones in the same country.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have a little bit of a map pulled up of the entire time zone. So the central time zone, in terms of like square like footage and area, it is probably the biggest one. Just looking at it, it seems you're in Indiana, correct?
Yeah.
So you are literally at the edge of the central time zone. There are most of Indiana is in the eastern time zone, which I did
Hmm.
not know. And it goes from there all the way to southwest Texas, up to North Dakota, and down to Alabama and like the so like kind of handle of Florida. So it is quite the big time zone. I don't know if anyone other ones are much smaller. The Pacific time zone only has like 4 states to it.
Yeah. It's
So
great. Biggest and best. That does remind me of a problem, Mike, because my cousin goes to Indiana U, which has like a bunch of satellite campuses, and that is a problem he's run into because his campus and like one or two other ones are Central Time, but the main campus is out east, so it's on Eastern Time, and so again stuff like that can happen. But
yeah, I find out like a state like that. Like I get like some if you're like a huge state like Texas, it's the latitude is so not latitude, but the longitude is so long that you could see why it would be split into different time zones. But Indiana is not like it's not like a huge state. So I'm wondering why like just the north west is kind of central time. I wonder if it's because it's close to Chicago or
that
there's a reason behind
I
that.
think that's why. And
Yeah,
then yeah,
because like in Indiana, do you guys consider yourselves Midwest?
yeah, it's Midwest.
Because I always think of like I can't decide if I think the Midwest is starting at Chicago or starting at Ohio or like I don't really know. But
I I th-
yeah.
I think it's definitely considered Midwest. Like obviously it depends on like your opinions and stuff like that for a lot of stuff. I think like Ohio, Indiana is where you start to get Midwestern
Yeah,
stuff.
because what else would you call it? You wouldn't call it Eastern. You
Yeah,
wouldn't
it's
call
definitely
it.
not East Coast.
Yeah.
Like Pennsylvania,
Uh,
like even like West Pennsylvania is like pretty distinct from like East Coast stuff.
yeah, when you get to the point where you're in like West Pennsylvania, it's pretty much Ohio. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's and Ohio, I think is pretty much. I think that's pretty much clearly Midwest, unless you say it's its own thing. But I think it's Midwest.
Hmm.
Michigan's Midwest. But then like this is where like the borders start to get like a little weird because then you're like, is southwestern New York Midwest? Which I don't think it is,
I don't think.
right? Which is right on the border of Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
So it's weird. Like America is just a bunch of like countries within one. But
Yeah.
yeah, but you can't say there's anything in common with, uh, you know, like Broome County, New York, and then Minnesota. So I think I'm comfortable with it being no more east than Pittsburgh,
Yeah, definitely.
and that is your basic definition of the Midwest.
Yes, that is.
On the morning roll.
Yes, definitely. It's, yeah, it all comes down to the basics.